Thanks a lot for coming back and joining us. I have an awesome guest on the show for you today. You're in for a treat with this gentleman. His name is Jason Falls, and he is an expert in social media, and he is an author also of the book, which I love the title, No Bullshit Social Media. So if you don't have it already, I highly suggest you go out and pick that up. It's a great read, and I think it'll really help you a lot with trying to market yourself. And really what we talk about much on this platform here is, as a real estate agent and as a small business owner, you really are a marketer. That's really one of the best uses of your time, is that you're constantly telling people what you do. And really, I was compelled to buy Jason's book because it's really social media. It's a really elusive art and a science with kind of to tell people about yourself, but not annoying them. And the title really caught me, because you want to do such a way that it's really not like you're hyping yourself up and it's not fake, and you're really trying to be genuine with people. So I really wanted to go out. I had to get Jason on the show today because I thought that this would be an excellent presentation, and it'd be really helpful and informative for you when you're trying to get out there and you're trying to get more business, to do it and do it effectively, so you're not spinning your wheels in the sand and wasting your time. And you could potentially annoy your customers and clients, because if you're always on Facebook or whatever and you're constantly just talking about yourself and you're not doing it strategically, and you got to be effective, and social media can be time consuming. So I wanted to bring an expert on the show here for you today to really just kind of pull back the curtain a little bit, not to be cliche, but to really give it to you the right way. That way you don't have to figure all this out for yourself. And like I say, you can get it from someone who's really got their finger on the pulse of this particular topic, social media. So I welcome to the show right now, Jason. How's it going, Jason?
I'm great, Chris. Thanks so much for having me on. Excited to chat a bit.
Yeah, the pleasure is definitely all of ours. So. Yeah, Jason, you want to just kind of tell us a bit about yourself, and how did you become an expert in social media?
Well, I love that term. Other people are welcome to call me that. I don't refer to myself as that. I certainly have a fair amount of expertise, but I don't know that I would ever put. Yes, calling yourself an expert's like calling yourself sexy. It's just not my. That's not my perspective or purview, but somebody else can do it if they want. But anyway, I appreciate the compliment. So, I have a public relations background. I've always been a journalist or writer, a public relations type guy. I worked in college athletics actually for about 18 years, sports journalism and college athletics as a PR guy. They call them sports information directors, or at least they did back then. In that time, I spent a lot of time at smaller schools, so I was constantly trying to find software and hardware and ways to leverage communications via technology, and that sort of obviously led me to the internet. I'm in my early 40s, so I came up high school, college was when the internet was really first taking off, so it was relatively new, but I was always trying to find ways to communicate through forums and message boards and other channels. So social media, even though it wasn't called social media back then, was sort of baked into what I did because I was fascinated with computers and technology and communications and how to connect with people in those environments. So I did that for a long time, and then in 2005, 2006, I got out of the sports information college athletics racket, if you will, and got a job at an ad agency called Doe Anderson here in Louisville, Kentucky. And I kind of looked around and said, hey, why aren't we talking to our clients about blogs and social networks and social media? And my CEO and chief operating officer at the time, who the CEO, Dave Wilkins, retired, and then the chief operating officer, Todd Spencer, became the CEO. They both kind of pulled me aside and said, look, we don't really know what it is you're talking about. But in the marketing world, if you can figure out how to sell it, then you can do it. So figure out how to sell what it is you're talking about, and we'll put you out there in front of clients and see what happens. And so they had the confidence in me and the vision to say he might be on to something. And so we started a social media department, started throwing some ideas out there at clients, and they kind of stuck. I like to tell people I was in the right place at the right time. It was early in sort of brands' emergence onto the social media scene, and I didn't screw it up, right? The recommendations that I made were smart. They were grounded in consumer insights and/or pretty well, thought through hunches, and they worked. And so I started getting recognized for that work and invited to speak at conferences, and it kind of snowballs from there. But I've always been a marketing and PR guy who likes to tell stories. Everything's rooted in content, and social media and social channels have given us the opportunity to tell a lot more stories in a lot more fascinating ways, and that's kind of what I do. So that's sort of how I wound up where I am.
Awesome. I would just like to kind of expand upon the introduction there, and maybe just make a side note and just kind of announce to the audience here, again in the form of a compliment, that so for everybody watching this at home or listening, Jason's just being humble. He is an expert. Don't let him fool you. He's going to give a lot of great information here today. I apologize for putting you on the spot, but I love people like yourself, Jason, that come on here. You come on and you're like, oh no, I'm not an expert, and yeah, no, I just write books, and just kind of just do this, and I work for high-end clients and things of that nature. But yeah, just again, I'm very complimentary like that, so I'm always just trying to kind of give people a pat on the back whenever I can. But
well, I appreciate that, but keep in mind too, I've got cats who interrupt video recordings just like everybody else. So
we love animals here at Lead Generation University.
Well, one of them may jump up in front of the camera here in a second. You never know.
Yeah. All right. So that sounds like you got an awesome foundation there for kind of like you said, in the corporate world, helping executives and clients and customers with kind of promoting business and selling, because much of that is really, I would say, the heart of being a real estate agent, or if you have a small business, because as a realtor, you're trying to find people that are looking to buy or sell a house, but there's a strong sales element in there, and I was trying to make that point, especially with social media, because it seems like you're trying to sell. Like, say, if you go on, let's just say Facebook, because that's like the number one, big dog. You really are. I mean, if you're putting a message out there like, hey, anybody looking to buy or sell a house, call me. You're essentially trying to sell yourself, is really what you're trying to do. So what I would really like to have to give to people, Jason, is just maybe something simplified or streamlined, or in layman's terms, or however you want to kind of state it, some type of blueprint or step-by-step plan that it's effective, and like you said, that you apparently have already figured it out and you were onto something. So what would be, I guess, the essence of the book that you wrote? How does a person begin to do that in a systematic way?
Sure. So, there's a dozen ways to get into answering that question. So let me start with a very simple premise that I think every real estate agent, everybody watching this video can sort of understand. You're right. If you go to Facebook and say, hey, if you're looking to buy a house, call me. And if that's your post, every day, every other day, or whatever, you're going to annoy the crap out of people, and nobody's going to want to be connected to you on Facebook. If you do that on Twitter, it's the same way. If you do that via email, it's the same thing. People are going to unsubscribe. They don't want to hear that, because you are trying to sell yourself. You're trying to sell your services. What the people that are successful, the brands that are successful, and the individuals that are successful in building audiences and engagement on social channels, which leads to business. It may not be a direct response, click here and buy this from me, or click here and become a lead in my Rolodex. But it's building an awareness of who you are, what you do, and what service you provide, what you sell, what product you provide to people over time, so that when they are ready to buy, they come to you. And think about it. If my real estate agent, I get a couple of emails and notes from her from time to time. Hey, how's it going? How are the kids? Might get a Christmas card. So I hear from her a couple times a year. But she doesn't bother me every day with, are you ready to buy a new house? You ready to buy a new house? You ready to buy a new house? And so when I'm ready to buy a new house, I'm only going to call one person. I'm going to call the one that I know, the one that I trust, the one that helped me buy this house, et cetera, et cetera. That's the mindset you want to take in social media. You're not there to try to sell things, even though in the end you are trying to sell things. You're trying to sell houses to people or help people buy houses. what you're trying to do is build a relationship with a broad network of people who you earn their trust and respect over time, so that when they're ready to buy, they come to you. And a real estate agent is actually in a perfect position to be incredibly useful to a network of people, especially a localized network of people in social media. You're out and about in the community. You go to networking events. You're plugged into, the movers and shakers and the information networks in town. You go to the network meetups. You go to the Chamber of Commerce meetings, the neighborhood association meetings, et cetera, et cetera. You know events that are going on, et cetera, et cetera. You can just simply provide people who live in your community, or maybe you even go outward and say, hey, if you're interested in moving to this community or this part of town, let me be your resource. Here's the festival that's coming up this weekend over at this neighborhood. Here's a great place to park. I had dinner at this restaurant last night. It's definitely worth trying. Just got some news today that the school board just voted to put a new gymnasium up in this school, and that's relevant if you've got kids and you want to move into a new, better school district or whatever, right? So you're tapped into this network of information. You've just got to find a way to funnel that information to your social channels so that you become incredibly useful to those people. If you do that, then in the end, they're going to trust you. They're going to know you. They're going to like you. They're going to trust you. And who do we buy from? We buy from people we know, like, and trust. All right, so that's sort of a simple way to look at it, and I think a pretty logical way to look at it. If you get into the book, though, No Bullshit Social Media is really about the strategic approach to social media. So if you're looking at it from a business or a brand perspective, maybe you run a real estate office, and it's not so much an individual thing for you, but how do I get my team to leverage this? So the book goes into, look, social media is good for doing about 7 things, and we identify them as the business drivers of social media. And the whole book is all about the notion of when we wrote the book back in 2009, 2010. Eric Deckers is my co-author. When we wrote the book, sort of the thing in the social media world was that social media is all about joining the conversation and sharing, and you can't sell on social channels. This is all what I just told you. You don't sell on social channels, right? This is all this place where you hold hands with your friends and sing Kumbaya around the campfire, right? This is not a place where business happens. And the book is actually written to say, oh, no, that's not right. Because if you add the phrase marketing to the phrase social media, you're talking about business, and you better damn well be driving business, and you better be measuring it, and so on and so forth. So what the book does is it tries to marry that sort of purist notion of this is a place where we join the conversation, where we engage, where we build trust and relationships, but also marries it with the idea of we also, though, have to use this network to drive business, and we have to measure it and quantify the success. So depending upon your industry, those two things come together sometimes more cleanly and quicker and easier. In real estate, it's probably going to be a little bit more broad because, again, your sales cycle is so long for an individual buyer. But at the same time, we identified those 7 business drivers. What can social media do for your business? Because you can't figure out how to use it unless you know what you're going to use it for. So it can build community, which allows you to build an audience, build a community of advocates for your brand or your business. It can protect your reputation. It's not just about people talking about you on the internet, but it can also help elevate positive search results rather than negative search results around you, so they can help protect your reputation online. It's an extension of public relations, so all the facets of PR, media relations, community relations, etc., they have some carryover to the social media world. It can build branding and awareness, and that's what most of the big brands use social media for. It's not so much about, hey, come and buy my chicken, or come and buy cars from me, or buy a house from me. It's more about, hey, here's what we stand for as a brand. Make more people aware and familiar with you so that when they're ready to buy, they ultimately buy. Let's see, that's 4. Let's see, 5, 6, and 7. Let's see if I can remember them all. Let's see, it can also facilitate research and development. So there's a really good case study or two in the book about Papa John's doing a contest for pizza recipes, but it wasn't driven by their marketing department. It was actually driven by the research and development department that wanted to get more insights from consumers into what they make when they make their own pizzas, right? So it was actually gathering information and intelligence from your audience. So research and development. It can drive sales and leads, right? So that's ultimately what people want it to do from a business perspective. But think about it, though. That's one of 7 things. And for some reason, the 7th thing is escaping me. I'll come back to it in a minute. Customer service. It can facilitate customer service, right? So if you're a big company, or even if you're just a small town real estate agency, when people are talking about you online, or when they have questions about the area or houses for sale or whatnot, you can do that over social channels too. So of all those 7 things, though, really only 2 of them are about making money. Research and development insights can be used to spin off new products and services and features, which can increase sales, right? Driving sales and leads is obviously about driving sales and leads. But thinking about what you want to use social media for, I think from a strategic standpoint, you have to pull back and look at the 7 and say, okay, these 2 are about directly driving revenue. These 5 are all these soft metrics. They're very important to business. You still need good customer service. You need to build advocacy groups and community. You need to make people more aware of your brand. So they are valuable, but they're more soft metrics. They're more soft goals. They're very important to you, and so you can use social media for those as well. So the book is about identifying what social media can be used for, figuring out what you want to use it for, and then building a strategic approach to doing that and being able to measure it all at the end. So that was a really, really long-winded way of answering your question in 2 different ways. But there's this sort of simple philosophical approach to social that needs to be combined with a business metric data-driven approach to using a channel of any sort to drive your business. And that's kind of what the book gets at.
Good stuff, Jason. What's funny, I think maybe if you just wanted to kind of, long story short, I think is it accurate in saying from a philosophical way, you're basically, it's more of just like you're a publisher and just putting out content for people, like you said, hey, this restaurant over here, this activity, this school, where you're just an expert in your community, and you're always just giving useful information, and then say, hey, this guy over here, my next door neighbor, he's a real estate agent, he just told me about this restaurant. Or whatever. So if you just give people on whatever channel it is, whether it's Twitter or what have you, then ultimately, like you said, it takes a little while, but they come back to you because then you become that resource. And it's funny, I see it all the time, and from very successful agents, their posts on Facebook are, hey, I'm doing an open house today, and I just got a listing, and I just wrote 2 offers. Oh, it was a great day.
Yeah.
And I read that, and I'm like,
there's not a single person
cares.
No, nobody's going to care about that.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to care about an open house if you say, hey, that house on the corner of Maple and Oak? We're doing an open house over there. If you want to come check it out, it's kind of pretty cool inside. Here's a couple quick snapshots. That might draw more people to the open house, and so you get them there, you get them interested, and then maybe they really aren't interested in buying a house. They just want to look at it, which that's most of your foot traffic anyway, I would imagine. But the ones that are, now you've funneled a few more of them in the door. So what you have to try to think about is when you're posting, how can I use this strategically? But within that mindset of just being a trusted resource for these folks online, how can I post things that's going to maybe drive more foot traffic to the showings? Maybe get people to give me their email address. Maybe you've got a newsletter that you want to say, hey, I want to communicate with these people a little bit more officially so that I can measure it better, so on and so forth. So maybe you do a restaurant review thing. Hey, I'm gonna do restaurant reviews. Doesn't have anything to do with real estate. Again, it's providing usefulness to the community, and that's pretty useful. I'm going to go out and try all the restaurants, and I'm going to rate them, and that's going to be my thing. And in order to get those reviews, you've got to give me your email address. You have to sign up for my e-newsletter. Well, now all of a sudden you've got their email address, and you can say, on occasion I'm also going to put at the bottom of the restaurant reviews, hey, by the way, here's some new house listings. Now, that's probably not a real, strategically sound way to approach it, because those 2 things don't seem to mix together in my mind. But that's a one series of, like, that's an ideation set, right? I would start there and say, okay, how can we take restaurant reviews, capture people's email addresses, deliver that content to them, be really, really useful? How can we then tie that back to, we want to help you buy your next house? So,
Right.
you know, that's what you get a consultant or an agency or somebody to come in and help you work through. But that's where you start your thinking.
Yeah. I think, and that's funny, you totally just reviewed another expert I had on a couple interviews back, and they recommended a very similar thing, except it was just kind of like a guide. It would be like, hey, you know, if you're looking at, depending on your target audience or whoever you're trying to attract, well, for real estate agents, it's people that are trying to buy or sell a house. You say, okay, here's your official guide to buying a condominium, you know, 2015 or whatever, and then enter your email address over here. You can download it, like you said, then you can follow up with them afterwards.
That makes a lot more sense when you're talking
Yeah,
about real estate. But again, not everybody is ready to buy a house, right?
right.
So I would think that you could do both. You could say, hey, if you're interested in buying a house, here's my 10 hacks to make sure the house buying process is easier for you, or whatever. It's a downloadable white paper. That way you capture the lead and you can say, hey, you're looking for a house, you downloaded this. Well, I've got some properties you may want to check out. Let me know a little bit more about you, and I'll try to match you up. Right now, you've got them in your funnel, and you can work that lead and hopefully turn them into a customer. So that makes perfect sense. But then there's also this vast audience of people out there that's not currently shopping for a house. How can you be really, really useful to them in the meantime, but
Right.
also become the relevant person that they turn to when they're ready?
Yeah. I think this is a great segue into another question I just thought of. I wasn't planning on asking this, but I think it's probably a big one, and I would have been mad if I would have overlooked this. But so if we're talking about, hey, so we want to attract potential customers into our sales funnel so we can ultimately help them and do business with them. Um, what are your thoughts on advertising on, let's just say, Facebook? Now, a lot of times we all get these. We get the ad right in our stream, and then if you ever read those comments, it's some random person on there that's irate and it's cursing and said, "Get this crap off my stream," and I'm blocking you, and it's spam, and so on and so forth. Uh, so it's almost like a double-edged sword or a fine line that we walk, where we're trying to attract these people but not really irritate them. Again, in a no bullshit way. Advertising, I mean, you got to advertise yourself. You got to put it out there, and the eyeballs are on social media, especially Facebook. So, what are your thoughts on advertising on Facebook or any social media channel for that matter?
Sure. The powerful piece of advertising on social channels is that you have so much more information to use for targeting. That's why Facebook ads and sponsored posts and whatnot are incredibly effective for brands. The ones that are doing it, that are really getting granular and trying to figure it out, are seeing a great deal of success because they're hitting what I call the relevancy bullseye. They're reaching the right audience in the right place at the right time and with the right message. And if you do those four things, you have a much more, a higher degree of success than just throwing an ad out there and hoping it hits the right audience. With Facebook, if you want to dial in and target a certain gender, a certain income group, a certain geography, those are all the standard demographics that we've been trying to target for a long time. But with Facebook, you can use the interest graph too. So I can target a 41-year-old male in Louisville, Kentucky, who likes the University of Louisville, who graduated from Morehead State University, and who likes Dwight Yoakam, right? I can get that granular. So if I know a lot about my most likely audience to buy, I can really dial in. Now, I may only have 20,000 people or 10,000 people in my ultimate target according to that advertisement, but those are going to be 10,000 people that are teed up and absolutely ready to buy, and or at least the right buyer. They may not be ready to buy, but they're at least the right buyer. So that's why the ads are so successful. When you get the people in the comments who are complaining, it's typically because it wasn't targeted well enough. It reached an irrelevant audience rather than a relevant one. I can tell you this from being at an organization. I was at Cafe Press for a couple of years, which is a large online retailer, and we used social advertising quite a lot at Cafe Press, and they still do. And the firm that I work for now is actually the PR firm for Cafe Press, so I still work with the brand quite frequently. And they use social advertising quite a bit, sponsored posts, and they even use the Facebook advertisements over on the right-hand side, which, again, if you've got the right message and you target it well, those things get clicks. They actually drive revenue and drive business if you target it right. And so don't believe the people that tell you that there's nobody clicks on those things, because that's absolutely not true. But in my experience, Cafe Press would send out targets that were hundreds of thousands of people, depending upon what the product was that they were putting the ad spend behind. And in targeting hundreds of thousands of people the right way, we would get less than 10 people complaining about the ad. When you do the math, you realize, well, that's not a big deal. Now, on a very granular level, as a real estate agent, if you're targeting in a small community, et cetera, you might get one person complain, but it might reach 5,000 people. That's not a bad rate. Let the one person complain. It's fine. But again, the better you target, the less frequency you're going to have of people complaining about the ad. I would also say, too, that the users of these social networks, Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, Instagram, etc., are getting used to the notion. As Facebook went public, we all sort of learned, oh, they've got to make money. So now they're going to ratchet down the organic reach of brand pages, and now we've got to buy ads if we want to get our brands out there, et cetera, right? So consumers are getting used to the fact that if I want to continue to use this for free, I got to tolerate an ad or two here and there. And so I think you're getting to a point where Facebook is becoming another media channel, and people are understanding there are ads there. That's how Facebook is free to me. I'll get over it. Again, if we do our jobs as brands, as advertisers, and we target really, really smartly and really, really well, we're not going to get negative feedback, and ultimately that advertisement, that marketing piece, is going to be useful to the audience that it's in front of. That's when marketing succeeds, is when the marketing information, the message, is actually useful and helpful to the end user.
That was fantastic stuff, Jason. I love that. If we could stop the interview right now, and I think the people watching this, they got their money's worth big time. And glad and kudos to me for having you on the show. I'm totally gonna pat myself on the back right now, and thank you for that right there. Would be an understatement. I'm so glad once again. You clearly see I'm like a cheerleader. I'm really passionate about this stuff. But yeah, that was beautiful. You cleared that up nicely, and really I think you shed some great light on. I think that's a really big issue nowadays. Like you said, because you see that really pissed off person in the stream, and then you're like, and it makes you apprehensive. Be like, oh well, maybe I shouldn't do Facebook ads because I don't want to piss people. But then if you think about it, with basically what you just said, if you're getting a bunch of clicks and you're getting business and your business is thriving and growing and it's benefiting, then okay, then you got one person right here or there, then
yeah. It actually reminds me. There's a real estate example in the book that is about Facebook advertising. There's a real estate agent in Austin, Texas, who woke up one morning. A couple of examples in the book of this one particular real estate agent. He gets up and picks up the Austin Statesman, the newspaper there in Austin, one day and reads the story about affluent families in Mexico were migrating in higher numbers to the United States because of the drug violence in their country. And so he did a Facebook ad campaign for affluent homes in and around Austin, Texas. And he targeted it to Mexico City and I think Monterrey, Mexico, something like that. He spent like $400 a month for 3 months on this ad campaign, so $1,200. And he didn't tell me, he didn't want to share complete sales data with me, but he did tell me that out of that campaign that cost him $1,200, he sold one house for over $1 million. So you're in the real estate business. Tell me if that was worth it. Tell me if there was ROI there, right? Works.
It was ROI with a capital R, a capital O, and a capital I.
There you go.
Good stuff. Okay, so one of the biggest mistakes people basically make, I would say probably with advertising in general, is this: they don't know how to target the person that they're looking for. So if they figure that out, everything else just kind of falls into place. Well, assuming all things are equal for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part, I think what I would, this is where you'll hear people in the technology and the social media, the digital marketing geekery world will start to say you've got to use sort of the lean methodology, which is a software application philosophy. But lean methodology basically applied to marketing and advertising is this: test and iterate. Come up with a plan and say, okay, I'm going to run this particular ad campaign for this particular property for a week. I'm going to look at my metrics, and then I'm going to say, okay, I'm not getting clicks. Let's change the image. Oh, I got more clicks. All right, let's change the headline. Ooh, the clicks went down. Change the headline back, right? It's test and iterate. Do it rapidly in succession with smaller amounts of data, and assume that when you see an uptick, that if you open up the floodgates and then open it up to more of a target audience, then that uptick is going to carry over, right? So it's test and iterate. Use a lot of A/B testing. There's also, if you get really, really complex and complicated in it, and this is where a real estate agent doesn't have a whole lot of time to do this, so you may want to try to find a consultant or someone that can help you. But you can do some multivariate testing. You can do what's called an AAB split test, where you take 10% or 20% of the target audience, and you have version A and version B, and they go for a couple of hours. Then you read your metrics and say, okay, A worked, so make the 80% A now, right? Because that way you're getting more apples to apples comparison on the number of people you're targeting. I'm getting really granular, sorry. But
No, that's important.
But
Testing is key. Yeah.
Yeah, but that test and iterate, try something. Is it working? Yes. Can you make it better? Well, let's tweak and see. If you make it worse, then go back to what was working. If you make it better, then keep on with that, right? Until you get to the point to where the investment that you're making in time and energy is not as great as the return you're getting back from it, right? And you know what? After a certain amount of time, you got to say, okay, that test failed. It didn't work. Scrap it. New test. And so
Right.
it's test and iterate over and over again. Try, and it's kind of an entrepreneurial thing too. I've talked to several entrepreneurs over the years. In fact, Fred Durham and Mahesh Jain, who are the co-founders of Cafe Press, who I work pretty closely with sometimes, they failed with 9 different companies before Cafe Press took off, right? And so it's the same thing with marketing. Try everything you can possibly try as often as you possibly can, as quickly as you possibly can, because out of 20 failures are going to happen before you get the one success. But when you get the one success, now you're going to know, okay, here's a formula that I can use to make that work. Let's see if I can replicate that over here with this product set or this target audience. I can't. Okay, well, let's test over here until we figure that one out, right? And you're constantly learning from these tests so that eventually it's not 1 in 20 that works, it's 1 in 5. And now all of a sudden you're in business.
Yes, sir. That was great. All right, so I think we got a pretty decent stranglehold on social media. Maybe people probably just have a tendency to overthink things or not think enough. I think that you really provided a solid foundation there for just getting up and running, and then just doing it the right way. The fundamental stuff, I think, is the lifeblood of all of it, like you said. So now we are this golden age upon us of mobile devices, the phone, obviously, the iPad, tablets, so on and so forth. How does everything that you just described, where does mobile come into the equation with all of this now in this new world that we live in, when your average person has some type of a mobile device, and you want your product or service to be in front of those people? How can you do that appropriately?
Sure. So I don't think it's a whole lot different. If you're providing content, whether it be on your website or whether it be on Facebook or via a blog or something of that nature, or even a Twitter stream, fortunately the social networks make it ultimately mobile, right? You're going to see those posts on Facebook's mobile app or Twitter's mobile app or the mobile version of its website. The user is going to see that in a mobile friendly format. What you've got to do as a real estate agent is you've got to make sure that your website, your email communications, anything that you ultimately create and you control how that content gets to the consumer, you've got to make sure that they can read it on a screen this big, right? It's got to be something that they can consume and digest in their hands. It's not so much focusing on, well, my website's got to be built with responsive design, and you can get into a lot of discussions about how you can optimize what you do for mobile, but ultimately you've got to think We've reached the tipping point now. I think in early 2015, the metrics that I've seen are going to tip past the point to where 50% of all email is checked via a mobile device, right? So, and I can't remember where that number comes from. I'm not making it up. It comes from someone reliable. I just don't have it off the top of my head. But 50% of all email is going to be checked via mobile device. Well, that means if your email doesn't show up right on, in a mobile device, if it's got a bunch of images in it, if the images are wide, that means it's going to show up really, really small and they can't read it, et cetera, et cetera. Well, then you're going to lose out to a competitor or to someone who's delivering the same type of information to their inbox in a format that they can read it. Now, fortunately, a lot of email software like Gmail and whatnot, and Microsoft Outlook and so on and so forth, they'll resize things. But if you make it really, really easy for that email to be viewable, presentable on that small screen, and or you make your website such that a mobile browser is sensed and your website says, ooh, deliver the small version, the mobile version, the optimized version, then you're going to be a lot more successful. And I think when you're thinking about your website, think about it this way, and this is actually good for the desktop version of your website too, not just your mobile version. Think about the use case. Why is a person going to come to your website on a phone, right? They're not coming there to read your bio. They're not coming there to find out about your company. They're not coming there to, like I tell people with Papa John's, because they've got a really good mobile website, nobody cares about John Schnatter's gold Camaro. That's a great, story sidebar to have on the desktop version of your website. It's there if people want it. But when people go to papajohns.com on their phone, they want to do one of three things: order a pizza for delivery, order a pizza for takeout, or find a location, right? That's all they want to do. So let's make that mobile website only do three things, because then it'll be really, really useful. It goes back to that user experience of making sure that you're providing what the user is looking for in some form or fashion. If they come to your website, you've got intent. They're coming to you intentionally to do something. Well, what are the 1, 2, or 3 things they're going to want to do there? Are they going to want to look at properties? Are they going to want to download information? Are they going to want to find your phone number, right? Go through that questionnaire process with your current customers or website visitors, and you could probably narrow it down pretty quickly. Let's make your mobile website only do that so that it becomes ultimately useful, which is the same philosophy you're taking in the social space. I just want to ultimately be useful to people.
I'm speechless right now, Jason. The stuff that you're talking about is just amazing. I'm loving every minute of this.
Good.
I wish we could talk about this all day long, but I think one more important thing I just want to touch on. Now, for someone watching this or listening to this interview, what's a good recommendation as far as goal setting and the actions that they can take as soon as they're done watching this? What would you recommend? I know you said earlier in this interview, you said, well, create a plan, and then obviously, we talked about, you got to make sure that you're really dialed in with targeting, and and then it's so just to kind of maybe give a homework assignment, if you will, or just what would be like the step one right after this interview, if you say, who's ever watching this, maybe it's a realtor or a small business owner, as far as setting goals, would it be the first hurdle? Make sure you're extremely clear who your target audience is and get solid with your targeting, and then step two. Then you start to maybe do ads, and then I think that you mentioned something about measuring clicks and testing. How would you do goal setting for all of this, and as far as I know that it can be quite time consuming and
sure. So goal setting, you really just have to sit down and work backwards. Okay, what do you want to accomplish? I want to sell more houses. All right, great, that's your goal. You want to sell more houses. Now, another step back. Well, how do I sell more houses, or what metrics can I manipulate that give me a good idea that I'm going to sell more? Is it that you have more leads, you have more email addresses, you have more people in your network that you can tap into? That probably makes a ton of sense, right? So, okay, well, how do I collect more people? Is it email addresses you want? You've got to be able to provide content that people will want in their inbox, right? So I got to create content that drives people to that. Well, you also need to be able to create a mechanism for people to understand that you have something to offer for them. So I have to use either advertising or public relations or social media to let people know, hey, I've got this exclusive newsletter content that you need to subscribe to. So start with the goal. I want to sell more houses, and work backwards from there. How do I sell more houses? I get more leads, right? Or I attend more events, or there's 3 or 4 things that this metric is predictive of this output. And then with each of those mechanisms, okay, I got to get more leads. Now step back. How am I going to do that through Facebook or through Twitter or through a blog or my website or email or dropping business cards in buckets somewhere, right? How do I get more people to get into this place? Because if I get them to this place, then I've got a reasonable percentage of those people are going to come over to this place, which is where I ultimately want to get them. So mapping the journey, but mapping it backwards. Instead of mapping a customer journey to get to you, find out, what it is, decide what it is you ultimately want to achieve, and go backwards and say, well, how do I get to those customers here? All right, now how do they get to their, where do they come from? How do I get them interested here? And work down 3 or 4 levels, and you're going to start to see, oh man, if I provide really interesting, engaging content on Facebook, I'm going to collect some people, some eyeballs. But they're not necessarily prospects, they're not necessarily customers. But if I then dangle out a little carrot and says, hey, if you're interested in this, a buying guide, a real estate guide, a house showing, etc., now I know that I've qualified that lead. So I'm going to do great content that gets eyeballs on Facebook. I'm going to dangle out some carrots. That's going to convert them over to email subscribers. Now I've got their email, and I can start talking to them and nurturing that lead along. And then ultimately I know how many of those people I need to talk to convert a customer. And so if you work backwards from the goal and understand the map of how you get customers from here to there, then you can start to do the math and figure out where you need to put your resources. And let me blow your mind a little bit more. Okay?
Yes, please.
Here's the last piece of blowing your mind. You may find out that it is more efficient for you to take out billboards or radio ads to get enough people from here to here than it is to spend time on Facebook or Twitter. It's okay to say social media doesn't really work for me from a business perspective, but you've got to test and figure that out first. I wouldn't give up on it right out of the gate because you don't see response in the first 6 months. Sometimes it takes a year or 2 to build an audience to where you even have enough data to work with to know, can I convert these people? You have to build that trust and that responsibility and that reputation over time in order to be able to say, okay, now if I push a button, will people convert? So it takes time. It's one of those things that you can test lightly. You don't have to spend a whole lot of money to do it over time, but you've got to be thoughtful and strategic about how you do it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if sponsoring the local Chamber of Commerce luncheon every 3 months drives more leads, go do that.
Yes, sir. All right. So amazing, Jason. I'm speechless right now. I think that we can probably stop here, and I'm going to start rambling. I'm just like a kid in a candy store with all of this. But where can people go to learn more about you and all the awesome products and services that you have? Obviously, I'm going to put this up on the screen one more time. Please go out and get this book immediately, if not sooner, if you don't already have it. No Bullshit Social Media by Jason Falls. Great stuff. It would expand on everything that he just mentioned and some. You can clearly see how knowledgeable Jason is in this field of social media. So great book. Love it. And can't wait for the next book that if Jason decides to write one in the near future, I'll be one of the first ones in line to get it. What do you got, Jason? Website? Where should people go?
So yeah, I'm really easy to find if you go to jasonfalls.com. That's kind of my site where I do speaking stuff. But I'm Jason Falls on most social networks too. So for the less markety side of things, I'm Jason Falls on Twitter. I'm Jason Falls on Facebook, LinkedIn, et cetera, et cetera. JasonFalls.com, by the way, is going to have a new refresh and a new purpose and a new blog attached to it in the next 30 days or so. So jasonfalls.com is a great place to start. I also write about social media marketing fairly frequently at both socialmediaexplorer.com, which is a blog and a company that I founded, and at Elasticity, which is the PR firm, digital marketing agency I work for now. I write on their blog as well, which is goelastic.com. But jasonfalls.com will probably get you where you need to go.
Beautiful. I'm going to end this interview so I can go check out those blogs right now.
Awesome.
Good stuff, Jason. And let's definitely stay in touch, and love to have you back on the show with any new endeavors and things that come up on your end, or beautiful breakthroughs of whatever they may be in the world of social media, because as you probably are well aware of, social media is a very elusive animal, and it's forever changing, and we got to stay on top of it and keep abreast of everything. And you clearly have your finger right on the pulse of it, and have had it there for a few years now. So I'm going to be following you, sir, and I can't thank you enough for your time and all your experience and wisdom that you shared with us here today. Priceless, and can't wait to talk to you again.
Well, Chris, thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure, and I'll be back anytime you need me.
Yeah, man. Good stuff. All right, everybody. So that's Jason Falls. Please go out again and pick up that book. And again, I say that sincerely in a no bullshit way. I know that I've said it like 3 times already in this interview, but that's how passionate I am about Jason and his products. Great stuff. And that's it for this module. We'll see you in the next one. And so go out there, get your social media campaigns up and running, figure out who your target audience is, and don't worry about pissing them off on Facebook. Just make sure you're giving them valuable stuff. Thanks, everybody, and thank you, Jason. Have a great day, and see you next time. Take care.